I'm going to show how I check a hive. This is the brood box. If you put your hand over it and the bees are non-reactive, they're not kind of like paying attention or jumping up at you, that's a really good sign that they are calm. Usually I start on the end. Some people like to start on, this is a double brood box, so anyway, some people like to start in the middle. I haven't done that yet really, but one thing that's nice with working with the bees is they're very used to close quarters. So if you need a bee to move, oh, I'm sorry, baby. Aw, killed one. I'm sorry. If you need a bee to move, you can just move her. You can just use your finger or your hive tool and gently touch her side, anywhere on her body, and she'll move over because they're very used to touching each other all the time. So usually on the end what you find is honey. This is nectar and pollen and mostly drawn out comb. It's yellow, so they've drawn it out for a little while. And then on the other side you can see they're just beginning to draw the comb. This is really normal on the end. Sometimes they never fully draw the end frames. So what I do now, you can't really see it, but I place it in the frame holder. Again, try not to upset or squish any bees. Very, very gentle. All movements are very gentle. I saw a really nice tip on a YouTube video recently where if you have a lot of propolis, this one doesn't have a lot of propolis, this gluey stuff. What you can do before you start pulling the frames is just go like this and separate them, and it just makes it a lot easier and quicker when you go to pull that frame up. You're just ungluing each one. Sorry. And they make a loud buzzing when you mess with them. Like if they don't like what you're doing, they'll let you know, and it's hilarious because they communicate very, very well. I respond to it and I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, you know. So the one side of the frame, you lift it up gentle and not all the way, just like a 1/4 inch, enough so you can kind of get your fingers under it. And again, you can move the bees out of the way if you need to. This side, I lift it up and I set it just slightly on the edge. Again, not to squish any bees along the side. And then I get my fingers under it a little bit and just gently lift it up. Okay. You can hear my neighbor. So here's just this colony was a feral colony, so they build their comb a little bit wild, which I don't mind at all. So the one frame next to it is bee spacing into this frame here. This is why it's important when you put it back together that you put it back together in the same puzzle pattern that you find it. So not to move the frames and forget where they go. So this is backfilled with a little nectar. I don't see any eggs, but I do see some capped brood around the edges that is going to be maturing, and they're going to be hatching out soon. I like to set aside 2 frames, that way I just have plenty of space. Excuse me, ladies. I have plenty of space here to move the frames and look and really see what's going on. This one I had to break a little bit of connecting comb, so you can see how they're making this almost doubling. Here is wax, and beneath it is also wax comb, so they're kind of doubling up on one frame. It's fine as long as you're able to manipulate it and pull it out and inspect it every couple of weeks. You can see here the more flat brood here is the worker bees, and the more kind of popcorny looking brood here are the boys. Those are the drone male bees, and everything looks good. So the queen has 2 brood boxes in this particular hive. Obviously she's coming up here and she's laying wherever she likes. I see larvae in here, and it looks wet. You want the larva to look wet and not dry, sort of glistening. And if you see eggs, it's great. If you see tiny larvae, really small, it's great to see them swimming in royal jelly, which is like that milky stuff, because then you know that they have lots of food that they're able to feed this many bees. So since I have space, I'm just setting these back in. Again, I'm very careful on the edges, not to squish any bees. And the places where you can squish bees too is here to here, here to here, where any edges touch. Along the side of the frames, they don't touch, so you just have to be careful that you're going up straight and back down straight. But if I'm going to push it all the way against the box, I just make sure there's no bees there that I'm going to be squishing in the process. So they have their bee space and nobody's getting squished by the wood. So again, lift it up slightly. Bees definitely can smell your breath. So I usually don't talk or sing or anything as I'm checking them, because they can react to that. This is not drawn out, partially drawn out and filled with nectar. I think it's because they have this puzzle pattern going on here. So they're not going to use all the space on every frame, because each frame is not going down perfectly straight. This one I'm pulling apart a little bit of comb to look at it. I'll show you that. This one is actually a medium-sized frame in a deep super. So at some point I might move this up to a honey super, allow them to hatch out, and then they can backfill it with nectar. So again, you can see how they're doubling up on the stuff here. But the brood in this looks really good. It looks solid. I already saw a larva, well fed. They have plenty of honey because I took off 2 honey supers. One is full, the other is partial. Watch out, little girl. So again, you need them to move. You just flick them a little tiny bit or gently nudge them with your finger and they move. So here I didn't have to use my hive tool to lift it up. Same thing. Kind of interesting. See how they're festooning along the bottom? That means they're going to be making comb there. They might be drawing out comb. Particularly they like to do that along the bottom of these. If you have a short frame and a tall box, they'll draw that out, and oftentimes it's drone comb because they need the space. It's a different size comb. So that's pretty cool looking. So far I'm not seeing the queen. I'm really not looking all that hard. She could be anywhere within these 2 boxes. Oh, I see her. How funny I said that, and there she is. Let me see if I can show her to you. Do you see her? She's quite a queen. She's laying really, really well. There she is. You see her in the middle? I think that's her. She moves slightly differently than the other bees. And, oh, here she is. Oh, I wish I could be sure you have her in your view. And you can watch the other bees how they act around her. They take her pheromone, they lick her and they touch her, and then they spread it around to the rest of the hive, the scent of the queen. So I'm not going to hold her out here very long. That was great. Very happy. I'm probably going to be splitting this hive, making it into 2, because they're really successful, and it just makes sense to me. So this is heavy. You can feel the difference. This is very heavy when it comes to being filled with nectar. So this is being all filled with nectar on this side, and this side over here has some brood. Okay. These bees are really, really nice. They don't mind being worked with. I'm really happy with this queen, so this is the queen that I would like to make more queens from. I'm definitely going to split this hive next week, and maybe I make a video of that too. I don't see any problems in terms of pests or anything. It's a super strong hive, so they tend to be able to take care of themselves. You see how they have made the comb on the bottom of this frame, and indeed it is mostly drone comb. So when they're making it on foundation, the size of the foundation is normally for worker bees, so they take the opportunity to make drone comb, which there are drones being hatched out here along the bottom of a frame like this. So at some point I might take the drone comb off and put it up in the honey super, just to put the right size, you know, frame with the, we have 2 more frames to go. So you can just see the pace, nice and slow and steady. This is all honey, and then they're festooning on the bottom. This is nectar becoming honey. I see plenty of drone, which is fine. They have plenty of stores to feed them. It's great. They're sending out this lovely genetics into the neighborhood. And then this one is not drawn out. Again, it's pretty normal for the end ones to not be drawn out. Don't worry about that. It doesn't mean you have to wait for it to all be drawn out before you place another box on top. Oh, I'm so sorry I squished a drone. I'm sorry, baby. Aw, sorry. So now I wanted to show you placing it back, because again, in between this wood and this wood, you can easily scrunch bees, and I think I just did one. So you can hear the crunch. So sometimes what I do, I use my hive tool and I push all 3. It's better, instead of free form holding it, to have it angled against something for leverage to push, because if you slip, sometimes you can kill a bee, which is not great, and also you can alarm the bees with a fast movement. So nice and slow. I push 3 frames at a time myself. This one again doesn't have a lot of propolis, so it's pretty easy to do. And I'm actually not going to check the bottom box. I saw the queen. Everything looks really healthy here. The only thing I might be concerned about is swarming, but in this entire box I didn't see a single swarm cell, so I'm not too concerned that they're ready to swarm. So here, now when you get the 2 together and you notice there's a bunch of bees in between the wood right here, you can, I use my hive tool sometimes to shoo them a little bit, although sometimes it gets them upset at the hive tool. You can also blow on them. You can use the smoker. Did you know that if you blow on bees, they move? Here. Did you see that? That's one way to get them to go. Or you just wait patiently till they kind of move out the way. And obviously sometimes you can't help it but squish them. This was a pretty easy hive check because I saw the queen, I plenty of brood. I really don't see any issues. I think the split is going to work really great. And it also gives them a brood break, which is helpful to keep their mite count down. I have been seeing some deformed wing drones come out of this, which you would have learned about in the class. So again, I put these back the same way that I found them. And I really try not to roll and squish the bees. Same direction and same frame order. Nice and slow and easy does it. When you're a new beekeeper, you really have to have some time to devote so you're not stressed out when you're going to be checking your bees. You never know what you're going to find, if you're going to have to go get stuff like an extra frame or something, or something for pests, you know. So just to not be hurried in the timing of it. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This is 10 frame, and it was pretty easy to manipulate. Oh, they're making some noise and they're moving this way. I hope I didn't squish the queen. I don't think so. I don't think so. But I'm gonna put them back together now. Next week I'll do the split and maybe I'll video that. Thank you so much.